When thinking about the pig, many things come to mind. They are commonly associated with negative qualities such as gluttony, laziness, and idiocy, but of course, also food. The most consumed form of animal protein is pork, making up 36% of all animal products consumed globally. However, despite how popular pork is, almost half the world's population actively avoids it. In fact, 3 out of the 5 producers that made this video don't eat pork. Many people follow a pork free diet due to reasons such as concern for the environment, personal ethics, and culture. The main reason for people to avoid pork, however, is religion. While not compulsory, a portion of the Buddhist and Hindu population adopt vegetarian diets. Jews also don't eat pork, among many other animals. Many Christians also follow kosher dietary rulings and choose not to eat pork. But the largest contributor to the avoidance of pork is, of course, the Muslim population, with their halal dietary restrictions.
But why is it that so many religions view pork as an unholy food? Why is it that while I enjoy this amazing lunch, the Muslim behind the camera has to sit and watch while I enjoy this delicious, juicy,
In the century before recorded history, the area known as the Fertile Crescent, north of Arabia, was full of the sus. They thrived in the lush forests and open plains of the area. But with the booming population of humans in the area, deforestation helped to make way for urban settlements and agriculture. Surprisingly, this change only caused the pig population to explode. With the urbanization and increased population of the Fertile Crescent, the pigs found an abundance of food. You see, similarly to humans, pigs are omnivores. Unlike humans, however, pigs have a much more resilient digestive system and can eat pretty much anything. Before humans, pigs ate things like grass, nuts, lizards, earthworms, and even dirt. Human settlements produced a lot of food waste and human waste that all the pigs were more than happy to eat. Also, pigs don't have sweat glands, contrary to the popular phrase sweating like a pig. The phrase actually comes from a crude metal known as pig iron, on which water would commonly condense. It's named that because the little ingots formed reminded smelters of a litter of piglets. Anyways, due to the fact that pigs don't sweat in order to stay cool, they do something known as wallowing, where they will submerge themselves and coat their bodies in mud. To many of you, this in itself is already pretty gross, but since there are no mud pits in cities, pigs found an adequate replacement in the medieval cesspits. This is quite obviously not in the least bit appetizing.
Well, unless you maki the side.
Because of this, some religions considered pork dirty and therefore unholy. That's probably why, while deciding on what animals the Jewish population, for example, could and could not eat, Moses took one look at the pigs and very unsurprisingly decided no. With the birth of Islam, halal dietary requirements allowed the consumption of many species prohibited to the Jews such as dolphins, shellfish, and rabbits. Pork remained forbidden. But throughout most of history, pigs' use in symbolism was actually very obscure. Using similes such as filthy as a pig in the 18th century would be as unconventional as saying something like as hefty as a bag filled with vegetable soup today. But this all changed in the 20th century. The 20th century is known to a number of philosophers as the century of total war, a century that includes many of humanity's most infamous wars such as World War I, World War II, and the Cold War. Even the most peaceful periods of the century were far from free of tension and conflict. A major reason for the rise of these conflicts are the differences in ideology. At the time, most of the world's nations were more or less aligned with either capitalism, fascism, or communism, all three being almost polar opposites to each other. This led to similar groups of people, despite not being oppressed by any other, fighting a war based on their differing ideals. Therefore, these countries' governments needed to convince their entire population that the opposing ideology is the manifestation of the devil. This is where our cloven-hoofed friends come into play, in the form of propaganda. During the interwar period, one of the Soviet Union's biggest focuses was its creation of propaganda. Many works were centered around themes such as the Soviet man, the class enemy, and production efficiency. And the pig came in as a major tool in the use of Soviet anti-capitalist propaganda. In fact, the usage of pigs in Soviet propaganda is likely why the phrase capitalist pig came about. This specific agitprop character has become especially popular. Some of you may even recognize him. While he may look less like a swine and more like a very, very ugly man, I would like to highlight you the name he's been given, Porky. Funnily enough, despite being from 1920, the poster might as well be a reskin of many of today's modern meme templates, and due to that, he became one himself. But it wasn't just the capitalists who were the target of Soviet propagandists. During the Polish-Soviet War, this poster characterized the Third Republic of Poland as a pig. Pigs were also used in the Soviet Union's campaign against alcoholism, and during the Soviets' campaign against religion, Jews were also characterized as pigs. This is especially mocking due to the fact that, as discussed earlier, the consumption of pork is forbidden in Judaism. The Nazis also used pigs as anti-Semitic propaganda. However, unlike the Soviets, the Nazis targeted the Jews as a race instead of as a religion, though they were more commonly associated with vermin than swine. Other than this, there's little more use of pigs as symbols in Germany, likely because of how much they loved pork. While the Soviets had by far produced the most pig-related propaganda, the West had by far produced the most iconic works. In 1941, in the Reichskommissar for the occupied Dutch territories, many of these flyers were printed and distributed in Amsterdam by an anonymous designer featuring 4 fat-spotted pigs. Its caption reads, "Find the 5th pig." If the reader were to follow and fold the flyer along the lines on the flyer, they would be greeted by a very disgruntled Austrian man. This work was so popular in the occupied Holland that designers both locally and internationally copied his work, and the puzzle spread all over Europe and even to other continents. To this day, this template has been copied and reproduced more times than I can count. This is a Mussolini version with jackals instead of pigs, produced by the British-Iraqi Mandate. This is a Polish version with other prominent Nazi figures. This is one of Björn Höcke, a member of the AfD, which is basically the modern Nazi party. One of Saddam Hussein, and a dinosaur version of Saddam Hussein. And so many examples of Trump, I couldn't even include half. As of the recent war in Ukraine, a Putin version has also become popular. The most notable work of all, however, isn't a poster at all, but one of the top-selling novels in the 20th century, George Orwell's Animal Farm.
Animal Farm is a satirical political novel that closely mirrors the history of the Soviet Union and uses animals to symbolize the key groups. The sheep represents the uneducated masses, the horse represents the working class who blindly follows authority, the donkeys represents the intelligent few who failed to oppose Stalin, and the pigs represents the selfish, manipulative, and hypocritical government.
With the increase of pigs' use in media during the 20th century, pigs have made their way into the pop culture entertainment of today. Let's take a look at everyone's favorite pig from everyone's favorite cartoon. You know who we're talking about, Porky Pig. For everyone watching this who isn't 80 years old, Porky Pig is one of the key characters of Warner Bros. Looney Tunes series. But during some of his earlier appearances, the character underwent many drastic changes. Originally, Porky was associated with many negative aspects such as being temperamental, a glutton, and all around not the sharpest tool in the shed. This is in stark contrast to the hyper-intelligent and logical adult that he is known to be today. Although one negative attribute has stuck with him ever since, his iconic stutter. But Looney Tunes started losing popularity in the 1970s. Not even all our parents are old enough to remember the show. Could there be a more recent example from our generation's childhood? In 2012, Angry Birds took the world by storm. The main antagonists of the series are the pigs. They're shown to be selfish and insensitive creatures, and the whole plot of the game revolves around the pigs continuously stealing the birds' eggs to eat. They are also incredibly stupid, not being able to recognize one another unless they are wearing certain accessories, like the crown that the pig monarch wears.
But there is another example to pigs' use in symbolism. An international icon so popular, it's known both in the bustling city of New York and even in the tribal villages of New Guinea. Truly the embodiment of the pig's use as a symbol. And that example is, of course, your mom.